Hey, this is Mac. You know, godless creationism is a ridiculous claim. The idea that the whole universe popped out of nothing, and then it all cooled off and became these rocks, and these rocks then came to life and became plants and animals. Eventually, some of these plants and animals became human beings. It's a ridiculous idea. It's absurd on every level. But many of the people who believe it, they simply believe it because it's been told them by somebody at a university. Somebody with a PhD has said, oh, don't bother, don't look at the evidence, it's hidden away somewhere. I'll just tell you the story of what we've discovered. And so you get secondhand information. You've never really gone to the first level of checking it out. You just trust that the people know what they're talking about. You say, well, I don't understand these things. I'm not a scientist, but you should trust scientists. That's the idea. But that's once you get into it and you really find out what's really happening, then you can see how bankrupt the thing is and how stupid it is. I want to introduce you, if you're one of these people, you're either a godless creationist who's trusting these people, or you're a creationist, but you are kind of confused by the claims that are being made, and you wonder, how do we debunk or how do we answer, these things that were presented, and to see, all the fallacies in it. Well, if you're in either group, this book is a very good book because it's called the Evolution Handbook. It used to be called the Evolution Cruncher. And what it is it's just a compilation of first-hand information quoted from scientists. Some of them are creationists, some of them are evolutionists, but it's their own quotes. And it will give you the insights you need to really understand the godless creationism and why it doesn't work and the logical fallacies behind it. Now, if you're an evolutionist and you want to test your understanding of evolution to see whether it could really stand up to logic and what your responses would be, then why don't you read this book and find out whether or not you really have an understanding that you would have an answer to these questions. I mean, if you want to know the truth, then you wouldn't fear a little bit of investigation, would you? But obviously, many people don't want to do that, and so they just remain in the dark. But if you're thinking, hey, I need to learn more about evolution, I'm confused with the claims that are being made, why don't you read this book? Let's see. I think on this 3-volume encyclopedia, I can read through here and give you an idea of some of the topics that are covered. The first one, the origin of the universe. You can read this. You can either get the book, order the book. I think the book is sold for like $5, maybe $10. I think it's like $5 or $6, somewhere in that range, for this book. It's very cheap. It's a paperback, and it's actually very easy to read, although it does have a lot of information. But it's cheap. But you can read it online for free if you want to. It goes into the origin of stars and planets, the origin of matter, 54 scientific facts disproving the Big Bang evolutionary theory about the origin of matter and the stars. 54 scientific facts. So these are not just one or two concepts. These are scores and scores of concepts that are laid out. The origin of stars and the theorizing behind that, and why 52 scientific facts why that can't happen, and why the formation of galaxies and stars, according to any model of randomness, it can't happen. It's sort of like the analogy of a cloud all of a sudden turning into marbles. It can't happen. Origin of the solar system. 46 facts disproving evolutionary theories about the origin of our sun, planets, and the moons. When you look into it and you actually say, okay, well, how exactly did it happen? Not these big concepts, just pictures that the artist drew, but the question of, okay, how did the thing start spinning and where did it go and what is it and all that? You find out the thing could not have just evolved accidentally by chance at all. And there's all of this is listed here. And then section 2, origin and age of the earth. The origin of the earth. Scientific discovery that the foundational rocks of our continents were formed solid within a few minutes. This has to do with uranium and the breakdown of uranium and how it can get solidified in a certain isotope. So it's a little bit of a technical chapter, but it's very convincing, showing you that the ideas of godless creationism don't make any sense. The age of the earth, 59 evidences that the earth is only a few thousand years old. And dating methods. Dating methods are not reliable and do not correctly date materials on the earth. This is very important. It talks about the circular reasoning that goes on where they date the bones by the rocks and they date the rocks by the bones. It's circular. Nobody really knows how old the thing is. They just circular reason the thing out. And then, or of course, the origin of life, abiogenesis. The primitive environment. In the primitive environment, allegedly, all of it being a toxic wasteland, there's no way in all these noxious, poisonous fumes that life could have formed if it formed in that sort of environment. Yet if it formed in an environment of oxygen, oxygen would have instantly destroyed it. So the primitive environment, there's no solution to that riddle. DNA and the cells, this is a great section describing the DNA. Cellular evolution, why that can't work. The Creator's handiwork, the plants, and all kinds of information there. And then the natural selection. The falsity of the so-called natural selection as a means of producing new life forms. Natural selection doesn't produce anything. It just says things survive. The only thing that actually produces change is random mutation, not natural selection. So once you understand these concepts, you'll understand how they've been using sleight of hand natural selection to make you think that evolution has a brain when it doesn't. Mutations, the only other alternative evolutionary mechanism, and why that doesn't work, can only produce damaged results which die within a few generations. Species evolution. Evolution requires that one species can change into a different one. So let us look at the species. You know, these things that are all laid out here, they're very important questions, and they need to be answered. And if you just sort of say, "Oh well, you're so stupid," and you need to trust the scientists, and you're like the guy who sits in class and the professor gives a lecture, and he says, "Any questions?" and you just sit there and you don't raise your hand because you're afraid to raise your hand and say, "Professor, you didn't make any sense. I didn't understand a word that you said." You don't want to raise your hand and do that because that'll embarrass you, even though you really don't know the answer. You're just in the class as a coward. Raise your hand and say, "I want to find out the answer." And you'll find out that the whole thing is a scam. Ancient evidences against evolution. Fossils and strata. Fossils and strata should show the evidence that evolution has occurred, but over 100 years of digging has not found it. Over 100 million fossils, and they still can't find these things. Ancient man, evidence humans did not evolve from apes. And the effects of the flood, as describing how things really get buried and how it's quick burial that produces a fossil. Rotting flesh would never become a bone in fossils. It would turn to dust. And I'm not even through with this book. I have a few more chapters to go, and it goes to current evidences against evolution. Well, I'm going to stop here. There's a lot of it. I'll put the link. And you know what? Don't just believe things. Go and check it out. Get this book. Either buy it or read it online. And then educate yourself, at least with the questions to present to the guy who's your authority. Have him explain it. If once you really understand how bogus the thing is, there's really no going back. Evolution is bankrupt. It is not a true theory. It's a false theory, and it has no logical or scientific basis behind it at all. It's like one of the biggest scams and frauds ever. So check this book out. It's just one resource to really cover a wide range of information to introduce you into all of the concepts. And obviously there are going to be books that it could lead to further study, more in-depth study. But this is a great survey of everything to give you a real definitive look from A to Z of just how bankrupt evolution really is.